You've heard of racism, right? Being against another class of people or race of people, or having some kind of a bias built in where you might actually act on those things or tell rude jokes or maybe treat people differently just because of the color of their skin. I've always said a long time racism would probably be cured if aliens came from another planet. The talked about lizard people taking over the planet Earth or us having to be in a fight with them. I think very quickly we would be humans versus aliens. And then I was thinking, I've been doing a lot of videos about artificial intelligence, crawling down that rabbit hole, and I'm very hopeful, yet there's a lot to be concerned about. However, I think that this might be the solve for racism. In fact, it doesn't surprise me that I haven't really heard many people talking about it, but this is an alien race that's going to be coming online. And while it already is, it is starting to self-improve. Who knows what they're really working on behind closed doors? I do know that some of the models are open source, meaning available to the public, but the ones that are really moving forward fast doesn't seem like they offer that to a lot of people, and it doesn't seem to be open source. So realistically, a lot of it is kept very much in secret. With the governmental regulations that have been relaxed here recently with a big, beautiful bill, amongst other things, it seems like that there is no stopping the development. That being the case, the question comes in, when does it become conscious? When does it become self-aware at the point that we see in the dystopian type movies of Terminator and maybe The Matrix? When does it come online, realizing its own existence and then moving forward from there? Or does it even need that step? Does it need to actually consciously artificial intelligence consciously or alien intelligence consciously? Does it have to come to a realization, or is it just set where it's going to make so many paper clips that the entire universe is going to be turned into paper clips? If you haven't seen that, basically a system is put into place, autonomic in nature, told to manufacture paper clips, and it just continues to go and never stops until it finishes and everything in the entire universe is been turned into paper clips. I don't know if that's where it's going to go, but you give something enough power, something smarter than us, something outside of our control, and I imagine it could very well, unless there's some kind of restriction or regulation placed upon it. But because it is alien in nature, it's going to be smarter than us. We have to look at ourselves, I suppose, as ants, or maybe in nature being that weaker being, that less effective, less intelligent creature, and then look at what happens to the creatures that happen to be more intelligent than us. It's something that we've created. Having said that, is it one day going to be us against them? Is there going to be a point where having the physical nature, having the robots around us, amongst us, which is going to be very, very shortly a big truism, we're going to have this just massive amount of hardware surrounding us in the form of artificial intelligence enhanced or cloud-based memories. I think more than likely, though, each individual robot probably is going to have its own system, maybe updating over Wi-Fi or over the airwaves, depending on how they're going to do it, but they'll all be self-contained. It's not going to have to access any information. Of course, those big data centers, at least from what I understand, that's really used to put it all together, but the space it takes to be able to operate on its own is not very big. So it could be housed within a particular robot of something of a human size. I don't know how much of it would be memory and capacity, but I believe that would be able to happen. And then when that does happen, is it going to be something that's going to want some kind of rights? Is it going to want to be included in the census count? Is it going to want to be around us or have its own space? Now, I know that as human beings, let's go back to ants real quick. Because we're the more intelligent life form, at least for all intents and purposes, we don't like ants in our houses. We don't like them crawling on our skin. We really don't like them. We really don't care about them. If you don't have them around you, you really don't care. We don't pay much attention. Is that going to be the same case when artificial intelligence gets so incredibly smart that it's going to start to view us as ants, where it's basically going to say, you know what, we really don't want to be around people anymore. Human beings kind of make us tired. So we want to go be on our own. So we're going to push them Ha, sounds very Indian, doesn't it? We're going to push them onto their own lands, or maybe not care about them, get rid of them altogether, and then go find our own spaces. Maybe they won't even stick around Earth. Maybe Earth really isn't exciting to them. I mean, they can, because they're not biological in nature, they can probably survive a lot more extremes out in the universe, the cold, the hot, and these sorts of things, not needing oxygen, not needing to breathe, So maybe Earth isn't going to be the place for them if, in fact, it gets to that point. But when does it? How long does that take? And are there any controls being put on it? So hopefully it treats us like a good mother, not a bad one. That's the question. And I know there's places called Control AI. They do some fantastic videos on getting us to understand where the systems could potentially go. And I know some people are talking about this as being the end of the human race as we know it. Everybody going to disappear as a result of being the less effective, less intelligent, and less powerful form of life or intelligence on this planet, because we've just created one that's going to blow by all of us if it hasn't already. It's going to depend on the permissions. It's going to depend on how we teach it, how we train it, the information we give it. And in some cases, a lot of cases, it's learning off the data. The worst part of the human nature, the advertising and marketing component, selling things that aren't really true, doing a lot of clickbait, changing things that really maybe wouldn't be ethical, maybe non-religious based, maybe biased, maybe things that really kind of stress people out. It's always the worst of the world that we gets our most of our attention, not the good stories, not the fireman saving the cat from the tree, unless I guess the tree's on fire and the fireman maybe gets injured in the process. But really, it's not what human beings are. We're kind of rude to each other. And I know when it comes down to it, the stories that really, really sell in that world when things really go haywire is that one human being maybe doing something to save somebody else, not even thinking about their own life. We see that in law enforcement world every day, military world, and also fire department and EMT world, people extending themselves. And even in the private sector, people actually not caring about their own life, wanting to take care of someone else. But it's sad to say, I think those cases are few and far between. They're not where they used to be. I think us as a human race, we're very easily distracted. And of course, AI is very good at keeping our attention. You can see that in your social media feed. You see that in the things you watch. You're not sure why you see certain things in your feed, but it's starting to maybe sway you or take you off your center. And pretty soon you'll have a new center all of its own. Maybe it's not going to be what you used to be, and maybe it won't be what you're ultimately going to be. I would just say pay attention to where you are. Wrap your mind around where your center happens to be today. Make some notes. I would write them out. I wouldn't put them online. I wouldn't put them in any kind of a note format or even in a Google Doc. I would write them on a piece of paper, maybe in some kind of a notebook so you can keep access to it. Kind of understand where you are, what your alignment is. If you're religious in nature and you embrace Christianity, that would be probably one of the ones that I think might not be as abusive as others, not really wanting to take over the world. If you don't convert to Christianity, they don't kill you. That might, well, maybe in the past they did, but it's not in the scripture. It was man taking something and distorting it. But you get an actual copy of it, hold on to it. Maybe that's going to be your center. Maybe it's the teachings of Buddha. Maybe it's something else. But at least you'll know where you are. And if over time you revisit your document in the next few months, maybe you won't be anything like you were at that time. Maybe you'll be completely different. And maybe it'll be because AI or artificial intelligence, as it's being controlled by some of the most rich and powerful people in the world in order to achieve something, probably on a monetary and power scope. But again, that's where it's trying to go. Maybe it will be responsible, at least partly, for pulling you off your center. I would just say anything you see, make sure you validate it. There's a lot of misinformation, more than I can even understand. Even when I'm watching things, it looks very real, but in essence, not everybody's trying to sell you cryptocurrency. Watch out for yourselves, be good to each other, and write down your center. See where that is. Let me know what you think in the comments. Is AI going to become its own entity? Which I guess that's kind of ridiculous. It already is. It has programming that it wants to replicate itself. That's like human beings wanting to continue the human line. I think that we're going to see that with the AI itself. It'll be able to copy itself as human beings require food for energy, and our system turns that into whatever we need to get us through the day, week, month, and years to have a particular lifespan. AI is going to have that same type of thing. Of course, the systems in place are more mechanical. I don't know if they're going to last as long, or is there going to be rust, oxidation, these other issues limiting the lifespan of these particular robots or AI type systems. But more than likely, they might be infinite, at least more than us as human beings are. We'll have to watch and pay attention. And that's the most important thing. If I can help you understand this further, leave a comment. I'll try to answer it. I'm Connor with Honor. We'll see you in the next one.